So, welcome to Talk Tactic. We are going to get further into our discussion about defining what an alpha is. We got a lot of messages and comments from our viewers
Man,
and
start that
friends.
over. Do that again. I was looking down while you were talking.
Welcome to Talk Tactic. We're going to get further into our discussion about defining what an alpha is. In our last video about the man who shot Liberty Valance, we got a lot of feedback from some viewers and friends on Facebook and other places, kind of talking about what an alpha is and what an alpha isn't. Like I said before, we're filtering these movies out through different media and books that we've been reading. And so when we talk to you guys about what an alpha is or what a beta is or hypergamy or solipsism, these are terms that are being used in like the red pill communities or is it Marco?
In the manosphere.
In the manosphere, is that a term?
Yeah.
Manosphere? So everything that we talk about when we talk about these different terms are being filtered through that lens. So they're not necessarily terms that we're making up or defining, but some of them we are. Like when we talk about the male who sacrifices himself for society, or the male that sacrifices society for his own benefit, or the man who sacrifices himself for his own benefit.
Yes.
Yeah, so those are our kinds of terms, and we'll distinguish that as we go from now on. We'll try to do a better job with that. So we're going to go now and further our discussion about the man who shot Liberty Valance, and we're going to be defining the term alpha. The purpose of this discussion is to use the information in books and other media that have been recommended to us for reading and filter the movie in the context of those ideas. Okay? So you can PM me angrily if you want. Just remember that.
You're really PMing Rollo Tomasi
Yeah.
angrily.
You should be, yeah. You should.
Yeah,
just
that's
message,
really what you're doing,
you should
actually.
you should message that guy.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna define alpha, and alpha is a mindset. It's not a demographic. It's not the actions that you take. It's not the success that you build. It's not how good of a dad you are, right?
It's not things that you own. The Irrational Male by Rollo Tomasi says, the take-home message here is that you are not alpha because of your achievements. You have your achievements because you are alpha.
Right. And
So somebody can be born into a family, a very prestigious family, and have many things, have much status, have much power, and be completely beta because they didn't do anything for it. On the other hand, you can have somebody who's born with nothing, and because he is alpha, builds himself up to a position of power, and where
Right.
he's had these achievements.
Right. So there's this tendency to make the term alpha align with one's own self or their own moral compass.
Or morality.
Yeah,
and say something like an alpha male is immoral, or an alpha male is
all
moral.
moral things, right?
A moral thing.
Like you could say an alpha male is a guy who takes care of his family, is a hard worker, who is morally righteous.
But it's not.
Right. Why isn't it?
Because, like we said earlier in a different video, the three alpha characters, two of them are heroes. One of them is the most ideal hero. He sacrifices himself for society. The second one is sort of a Han Solo type character. He sacrifices himself for himself and for his woman. And the third one is a villain, and he sacrifices society for himself. All three of these guys are alpha personalities. So you see how the alpha type ranges from hero, from honorable hero, very honorable, idealistic, moral, upstanding hero,
The lone wolf.
to the lowest the
Scoundrel.
scoundrel. You see what I mean? There's a range there. It's not saying an alpha male is the hero or an alpha male is a morally upstanding man. It's not.
Right.
It's a mindset that you have.
Right, and their accomplishments vary on their morality and their ethics, how they want to navigate life. But there's characteristics that make one necessarily an alpha. So it's not like your physicality, it's not your looks, it's not your personality, it's not if you're like outwardly aggressive. Because in the movie, in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, obviously James Stewart's character is not an aggressive personality at all, where Liberty Valance is extremely aggressive, hyper aggressive.
Yes.
Yeah, don't lean back too far, man, because then you're
Right,
out of frame.
right. I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
Because I want everybody to see my face.
That's right. It's a lovely face.
It's a beautiful, it's a gorgeous sort of
Yeah.
handsome face. Now, this other part of the Rational Male by Rollo Tomasi, page 99, it says, power isn't financial resources, status, or influence over people. Power is the degree over which you control your own life. Okay? So that's a very interesting concept to think about. And also to think about how in the three alpha archetype characters, James Stewart, John Wayne, and Liberty Valance, the least desirable alpha character was the one who had the least power over his own self.
Who is that?
Liberty Valance. He had the least power over his own self.
You
He
mean
could not
emotionally?
control his emotions.
Right. He was very
John
controlled by his
Wayne
emotions.
lost his control of his emotions one time. One time. But Liberty Valance never had control over his emotions. And he was the least desirable alpha character.
Yeah, he was very much led by his emotions. He wanted to control how everybody saw him,
Yes.
and by trying to control it, he just made how everyone saw him even worse.
Even worse.
Right.
Right. Remember when they were voting and he was like, who votes for Liberty Valance? And he did his hands up, and then his two little stooges were like, I vote for Liberty Valance.
Yeah.
And then it's like nobody else. So this is a great idea.
And also by this point in the movie, though, that he already had these two other very strong alphas already showing dominance in the society around him and making very big changes to the society around him. So he as an alpha had lost a lot of power in that community by that point in time.
Right.
Okay, so let me read this to you. This is also from the Rational Male blog by Rollo Tomasi. And it states that an alpha is as alpha does. It isn't what we say it is. There are noble alphas and there are scoundrel alphas. The difference is all in how they apply themselves. There's a tendency to approach every alpha argument from what a guy thinks is righteousness. So we kind of talked about that already. The natural response in the face of such an inconsistency is to redefine the term alpha to cater to oneself and one's own accomplishments as a real man. You are not an alpha because of your achievements. You have your achievements because you are alpha. And Johnny just kind of read that earlier.
The last part of that.
Yeah, so you see, like in the movie, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, you have three different men moving to three different outcomes. And it's how it's this inner resolve in the three of them to make sure that they are the one to achieve their goal that makes them alpha. It's not what they're doing, because Liberty Valance is doing bad things. And James Stewart's character is doing good things. And John Wayne's character is just simply doing things for him and his woman. So when we talk about someone being alpha, or when we say someone is not an alpha, what we're really saying is that they have the mindset that they're comfortable with who they are, they're comfortable in the situations that they're in, and that they're not afraid to be themselves in the society around them. They're not afraid to voice their opinion. They're not afraid to do what they feel is most convenient for them, or what better society or what doesn't better society.
They are not afraid to be confrontational.
They're not afraid to be confrontational. Nope. And that's why when we talk about the woman, what's her name?
Hallie.
Yeah, when we talk about her, we also use the word alpha because she exhibits alpha traits. The term isn't exclusive to just men. There's alpha women. So it's not about being a man, or it's not about your inheritance or your achievements. It's the mindset, it's the frame that one works from when they're looking out into the world around them that distinguishes them as an alpha.
Right. And one thing that really makes a great point about the rational male, what you said from the rational male, was it's not that you're alpha because of your achievements. You have your achievements because you are alpha. So it's like you have cause, being an alpha, and effect, achievements. It's not cause, achievements, effect, well, I'm alpha. It's cause and effect.
Right. Your achievements might not necessarily be always good, right? You could be like the toughest, most fearless guy in your town and who's done like all these crazy stunts, and that could be an attribute of you being alpha, but not necessarily to your general success.
Yeah.
Right. So interestingly, also in this other book that we're reading called How to Be a 3% Man, it says that a true alpha male is a man who goes for what he wants and has positive expectations that he will achieve his goal. He will choose his purpose and passion first. Masculine energy is about purpose, drive, mission, succeeding, accomplishing, breaking through barriers, and achieving goals, etc., etc. So even though this author kind of has a slightly different perspective, still a lot of what's being said about what an alpha is tends to be very similar.
Very similar. It's about the mindset, not giving up, keeping focused, staying on your mission, and making that happen no matter what.
Right. And we also saw, like in James Stewart character, when we mentioned in the video before, that even when he was under threat of violence, he still knew, like, hey, you don't treat a woman like that. That's against what I believe. And he fearlessly, well, I'm sure there was fear, but
he was confrontational, even though he had no way to defend himself.
And no power. He had no power in that situation.
And that was bad for him. Yeah. That ended up bad for him.
Real bad. Almost killed him. So, but he's working from an alpha frame, though. Alpha is working at like a semi-conscious level. It's not like subconscious. I mean, if you're an alpha personality type, you're going to have some awareness of why you interact with people is a little bit different and how other people interact with you. So there has to be some consciousness, but it's mostly an internal mindset. And that mindset affects, like we've said earlier, how you engage the world. So, you know, there's this fearless pursuit of one's own goals and desires. Should I just read this list, or
yeah, you can read the list.
Should we just go through each
fearless pursuit
of
one's own goals and desires?
Yeah, expand on that a little bit.
Okay, so one of the things about the alpha personality is they take bold action. Take James Stewart, for instance. No training, well, extremely little training in firearms.
Right.
Realistically, there's no chance that he has
to kill Liberty
Valance at all. But he is still willing to take the most bold action he could possibly take. And that is go out in the street and walk up to Liberty Valance facing him head on. You know, he's not, because if he came up and shot him from behind, that would totally be against his principles.
Right.
So
principles do affect every individual differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so
and the other interesting thing is, guess what? John Wayne's principles, he's not above shooting a man in the back.
No, he's not.
He's not.
Yeah, he's not.
So,
And you could make a really good argument that John Wayne's character is actually the most alpha of the three alphas there, right?
Yeah.
The most internalized alpha frame of the three.
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah.
So you see how morality or ethics isn't directly involved. Like those things directly affect the individual, but it doesn't affect whether or not they are alpha or not
Yes.
in how they engage the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. So he takes bold action. He's taking extremely bold action to get what he's set out to do. Okay. Fearless selection of sexually adequate mates. Okay. That one,
Liberty Balance is not the best.
well,
But you know what?
John
Actually,
Wayne is not even.
Haley's character does.
Yeah, Hallie
Or
does
Hallie's
that.
character.
Yeah,
She fearlessly chooses her mate.
she does fearlessly
Yeah.
choose. And it's right after he proves himself.
Who proves himself?
James Stewart.
Okay. Well, tell them, man. I
He,
know.
James Stewart proves himself to be an alpha in the social sense, where he has all this knowledge, this book knowledge. He can read. He's a lawyer. He knows politics. He does all these things, right? He has all this knowledge. He teaches her how to read. So, and then he brings society to a lawless town, okay? So he proves to be alpha in that way. And then he also proves to be alpha because he's willing to face off to Liberty Valance.
That was a very bold move.
That was extremely bold.
And, he did that also as a sense of duty. He's like, hey, there's nobody else here. Nobody here in this town. They see Liberty Valance running amok, beating up men, killing men, and no one is willing to stand up to this guy. And in the true form of an alpha who sees that it's his responsibility, he takes ownership of the situation and confronts Liberty Valance himself.
Okay. And as soon as James Stewart proves himself to be an alpha in both realms, the refined society and the lawless West, he proves himself to be an alpha in both scenarios. That's when the alpha female chooses him. And fearlessly
Even
chooses
though
him,
knowing-
even though her man
That's right. John Wayne, Pilgrim.
is watching. And I'm talking about, like, she's with James Stewart, and then John Wayne walks in. She doesn't back away from her choice.
Yeah.
She doesn't back down and
Like a
cower away,
boss.
right? She doesn't pretend like she didn't mean that. She chose James Stewart because he proved to be an alpha in both
In her eyes.
circumstances, in her eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so much so that John Wayne goes ahead and he burns down this house, this place that he was building for her.
That's a spoiler. They might not know what we're talking about.
That's true.
You're jumping ahead there, buddy.
Spoiler alert. Hey, I'm going to tell him what you told him. If you haven't seen a movie from the 1960s, then you know what? Too bad. It's getting spoiled for you. No. Spoiler warning. Here, we're going to edit this. We're going to put the spoiler in front. There are spoilers in this discussion. So if you haven't seen Liberty Valance, take caution because there will be some spoilers ahead. You should put a little like red stop sign right here. Spoiler.
Yeah. You didn't say it as good as I did.
I didn't?
Mm-mm.
Grace?
Okay, so fearless selection of sexually adequate mates. That also gets into hypergamy and solipsism. Solipsism, which we're going to do a whole nother video about those two subjects.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with hypergamy or solipsism, and it's not solipsism in typical philosophical terms, but in more red pill terms and red pill definitions. And that's why we're doing these videos for you guys who are not familiar with these things. We're doing all the reading of these different texts, and we're going to these different media venues so we can bring these kind of definitions to you. Okay, another thing that defines an alpha is that they have a fearless ability to reject those that would invalidate the actions that they take. So Liberty Valance is a good example of this. Even though he's in the wrong in a lot of what he does, he believes ultimately like what his actions are really for the best and keep the integrity of the Wild West wild, right? And he rejects any person that challenges him.
Yeah, he
Right.
does. There's a great scene where James Stewart and John Wayne go out, and John Wayne shoots a paint can, and it splatters all over James Stewart. And then James Stewart just walks up and he punches John Wayne, and John Wayne falls back and falls on the ground. And that is a great example of what you just said, where John Wayne was basically saying, when he did that, he was saying, you know what, if you can be tricked by me just doing this, then you don't have any chance with Liberty Valance.
And you don't have a chance with my girl.
And you don't have a chance with my girl.
Yeah.
And then James Stewart
Being a
comes
true
up,
alpha.
being an alpha,
Yeah.
comes up and
Punches.
rejects John
Yeah.
Wayne. He punches him down, and he says, "I don't like tricks either, and now we're even," or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he leaves. So he's rejecting what John Wayne is telling him, that you don't have a chance at Liberty Valance. You don't have a chance to survive. And then James Stewart boldly rejects that. In fact, James Stewart is the only person in the whole movie that ever punches John Wayne.
Right. And John Wayne respects him for that. It's not like John Wayne's like, hey, you know what? John Wayne knows he's in the wrong. And he respects James Stewart even more for standing up for himself.
Yeah.
Alpha recognizes alpha.
He says that later. He says, I'm going to vote for him because he can throw a good punch.
Hey, dude, when I say alpha recognizes alpha, can you put like the Thug Life thing with the little like DV like they do in the videos? That'll be funny.
Yeah.
We jumped something here. Okay. So another thing that defines an alpha is that they're comfortable with the idea of failing. They're willing to start things whether or not they know they're going to succeed or not. A great example of this in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance is James Stewart's character goes ahead and he begins a school for the generally illiterate population, and not knowing how long the school is going to last or anything, he just starts with it. And he doesn't have any pupils in the beginning except for Haley. It's Haley, right?
Hallie.
Hallie? Hallie.
Hallie.
I used to know a girl, man, named Hallie.
Named Hallie.
Yeah.
Shout out to Hallie.
Yeah, Hallie.
But are you a true alpha?
Hallie's in the East Coast, man.
Oh, okay.
Hallie. You know what I'm talking about. Anyways.
Hallie's my girl.
Anyways.
Anyways, comfortable with the idea of failing.
Yeah.
So James Stewart, he set up this school. Very few students at first. In fact, at first, his only student was Hallie. And after some time passed, he basically had quite a few townspeople.
He
had a lot of
people.
townspeople.
He had los mexicanitos. No hablan inglés. But they were like saying the Pledge of Allegiance and stuff. It was funny. Okay, yeah, so alphas are risk takers because they're comfortable with failing, and they're not they don't define themselves by their failures, and they don't define themselves either by their accomplishments.
Right. Because they in their minds, they define themselves as what they're capable of and the thing that they're going towards, the mission that they're going towards.
Right. I feel like I have a lot to say about this last one, but I'm kind of drawing a blank right now.
Okay, doesn't define oneself by their accomplishments or failures.
Right.
Okay, so
And
there's a point in the movie, towards the end of the movie, James Stewart is, he's being a delegate, and they're having this vote about for or against him, and another man gets up and accuses him of being a murderer, who murdered Liberty Valance in cold blood, and this sort of ruthless character who's doesn't even deserve to have the chance to be there. So at that point, okay, now that is, in the eyes of everybody there, basically everybody there, that's like a really positive thing for James Stewart.
Right, because Liberty Valance was a tyrant.
But in James Stewart's mind, it's
That's a failure.
a failure for him because
That's a core principle.
his core principle says, never take the law into your own hands
Right.
with a gun. You always have a judge, a jury, and you have law and order. He starts out, he doesn't want to kill Liberty Valance, he wants to put him in jail. He ends up facing him off with a gun. But I would say this is actually a weak point for James Stewart in terms of being an alpha character, because that was, in his mind, a failure. He killed Liberty Valance. He did kill Liberty Valance. That was a failure in his mind that would define him and prevent him from going on and becoming a delegate and achieving the political goals that he had. He even said, it's bad enough to kill a man, and let alone to build your whole life on it. So I want to say that's probably the main thing that we see in James Stewart that's against the alpha persona.
Okay, so, and I really like this. This is interesting. I didn't think about this till right now, but so with all three of the alphas, you know, they're very well rounded because we're presented with a weakness for all of them. And for James Stewart, it's his scene that him living as a man in the West and not by a man of law is a failing, and he sees it as a failing in himself. Okay, with Liberty Valance, his weakness is his emotions, but he doesn't see that. He's kind of blind to the fact that his emotions are his weakness, so which tends to make him the weakest out of the three alphas in general. And with John Wayne, his weakness is Hallie, right?
Right.
And when he realizes that her hypergamy has chosen someone else, he goes and destroys the one thing that probably would have anchored her to him and to the West, which was burning down his house. Spoiler! So, yeah, so all three of them are well-rounded males. They're all human beings. And it's just kind of the reality of each one of them that they have weaknesses that they have to deal with. Like everybody has a weakness that they have to deal with. And so this is one of the things that when we discuss like what defines an alpha, it's not like some Superman. It's just part of how their frame helps them engage with the world, but they still have all the weaknesses that the majority of people have, and they have insecurities. But the way they deal with it and the way they look at life prevents them from making a lot of the hesitations that probably most people would make.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
And we haven't even talked about like
we haven't talked about how hypergamy or
alpha game or beta.
Yeah.
Beta game. There's a such thing as beta game. I think that's funny.
There's so much stuff in this one movie. It's amazing.
I've had alpha moments. All right, so we just want to thank you again for taking the time to be a part of this discussion with us as we further our knowledge in these different areas and exploring.
Filtering this information through the context of these books that we're reading. And I want you to watch out for our next video about this movie. And we're going to be talking about hypergamy and solipsism.
Right, and we'll be exploring that through the lens of Haley. And it should be very interesting, so I hope you guys join us for that. Also, we'll be looking at Justice League, right?
Right.
And who knows what will happen from there. I'll tell you what, though, just a quick note on Wonder Woman. The one thing that I do like about the Wonder Woman depiction is that they didn't sacrifice her feminineness her sensuality, her kindness, her strong female characters to make her a superhero. That wasn't sacrificed. And because usually when you see these movies with
Catwoman.
you see these movies with like these strong women in them,
Tomb Raider.
they're very masculine. They're almost like men, but it's like there's a woman actor, but it's like the part has been written for a man. And I feel like in the Wonder Woman movie, which was really nice to see that it was very much a woman there with female emotions, with her actions tended to be towards the feminine, right? Like she saw a baby and her reaction to the baby was very genuine. I thought that was amazing. And you see like these other women, they see a baby, they like spit on the ground. They're like, yeah, babies. You know what I'm saying?
If you want to PM us all angry about that, Mike's email is...
Yeah, you can PM me angrily. Michelangelo. Search for Michelangelo on the internet. You'll find me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for checking this out, and keep an eye out for our next video about hypergamy and solipsism.
Okay, so another thing that... oh, you're not sitting down yet.
That's right. Oh, wait.
Back straight.
Okay. Continue.